in an interview, you can ask people all kinds of questions. But the best kinds of questions are those that get them talking, because what you want is for the participant or for the interviewee to talk, to do most of the talking, while you do most of the listening. So there are many different types of questions you can ask, but here are the three most effective ones that get people to give you the best kind of information. They're called descriptive, structural, and contrast questions. Let's have a look at each of them in turn. First, descriptive questions. These questions basically ask the informant to describe something, a phenomenon, in his or her own words. So let's look at some examples. Describe your typical day. Tell me what your best friend is like. Can you give me an example of a recent conversation you had with your friend? So here we're asking somebody to describe a situation that happened a short while back. Please tell me about the worst experience you've had while living in the dorm. Can you show me how to use the instant messenger? This would ask the person to demonstrate something for you, but that still is a descriptive question. What would you say to your partner if you wanted to break up with him or her? So as you can see, the language we use to elicit descriptions can be describe, tell me, can you give me an example, can you give me a description, please show me, and so on and so forth. This is sort of the most basic question, but it is important to use the proper language, like please describe, please tell me in your own words, because that pushes the person in the right direction of giving you the biggest possible answer. The next kind of question is called structural question, and these questions ask people about, they ask informants how they organize their knowledge. In plain English, these questions ask people about categories of things, types of things, different categorizations, basically. Have a look at these examples. What are the different types of customers you work with? So here, the participant has to give you sort of a typology of customers they work with. Is this an example of an outfit you would wear to a presentation? So here we're asking for an example of a specific category of outfit. And here's my favorite from, not really communication, but my son and I were talking, he's really into dinosaurs right now and all kinds of animals. So we were talking about the different diets that animals have. And so I told him that some animals are called carnivores because they eat meat. Some other animals are called herbivores because they eat plants. And then my son comes up with this question. What do you call animals that eat both meats and plants? Sorry about the title here. So what do you call those animals? And of course, you know the answer, right? But this is also an example of a structural question. So whenever you are dealing with some categories of things and you're asking the participants about how they organize what they know about the world into categories, you're asking about specific categories or a list of categories or an example of a category, that is called a structural question. And finally, we have contrast questions. Those are fantastic questions because they help participants give you more input on how they see the world by comparing things and contrasting things to each other. So you ask about similarities and differences among things. Here are some examples. What is the difference between a discussion forum and a live chat room? Which of the three occasions you just mentioned would you rate as most formal, second most formal, and so on? How does your pattern of communication change when a manager enters the room? All three ask the person to make some kind of comparison or a contrast between things. And people frequently compare things to each other and they contrast things against each other because that's how they're able to learn about the world. We relate what we experience to our previous experiences and we see how similar or how different it is. That's why these kinds of questions will give you the best answers. So to summarize, we just went over three types of interview questions: descriptive, structural, and contrast.